G'day folks, welcome to this introduction to the company scale system. This system was started several years ago with the release of Adam Starkweather's Saipan. This entire series is a very close successor, spiritual successor to Adam's Grand Tactical series, which is still in development by Montelimar Publishing, and Race for Bastogne will hopefully be coming out in 2021. There are very many similarities between the Grand Tactical series and the company scale system. I'll go through some of the more fundamental differences between the two. Before I go any further, I need to point out that I have not yet played any of the titles in the company scale system. My comments thus are very superficial. They're based on reading through the Guam rulebook, flicking through Tinian and Montelimar. I have not read the Saipan rulebook yet. And of course, watching some playthroughs and so forth. They are not based on my experience of playing these games. So please keep that in mind. It's mainly a rules overview and comparison with the Grand Tactical series, not a experience-based comparison. They all use the same core system of dispatch points and command points. They are all on that Grand Tactical scale. They all feature company size units. They all have that ranged attack, those assault type, the two main types of combat that take place. They variably revolve around the movement of forces around this map and the concentration of forces within particular areas, some more so than others. They are, in terms of the rulebook presentation, they're very similar. Of course, Adam designed both series, and he has a kind of very discursive or chatty style of rulebook, which I particularly like, but there are certainly mixed opinions on that, and yeah, people have mixed views. To begin, I want to open the very first titles, Saipan. This was published in 2017. As I said, the series was designed by Adam Starkweather. This title was designed by Ross Mortell and Adam, with art by Antonio Pinar. My apologies. We get the Compass Games 2017 guide, 2 nice dice. We have the rules of play. Now this came out in 2017, and there were mixed responses to the rulebook. I haven't been able to flick through this yet. I could not find a PDF of the Saipan rules. I have, however, read through the Guam rules and the Tinian rules and the Montelimar rules. And Guam and Tinian in particular provide some improvements to these Saipan rules. So if you're playing Saipan straight away, I recommend you look ahead because these additional subsequent titles in the series include some what we might call errata or changes. Now this is Volume 1 in the Marianas Campaign. The second title to be released in the series was Guam Return to Glory, also in 2017, also designed by Ross Mortell and Adam Starkweather. And then this was followed with Volume 1 in the Liberation series. They're all using fundamentally the same rules. They're all part of that company scale system, but Montelimar is, I think, larger in scope. It has 6 22 by 34 inch maps, more counter sheets, and covers a bigger area. It's more sort of the traditional type of terrain over which the Grand Tactical series titles have been fought, where these are Saipan, Guam, Tinian, more closely focused actions with 2 maps, 1 map, I think Guam maybe several maps, and fewer counter sheets. So just be mindful that if you are starting with Saipan, there is some errata and some changes to the series rules which you apply backwards to Saipan. So we get rules of play, the scenario book. There are 4 focus scenarios and 2 campaign scenarios for a total of 6 throughout the series. We get various charts and tables, and if you're familiar with the Grand Tactical series, you'll recognise some of the fundamental similarities in the design and layout of these. We get our force displays, divisional displays, There are some subtle differences. I'll go over some of the main differences in a moment, but you have things like support weapons, tanks with slightly different rules. The date and weather display will be familiar, and the Empire of Japan displays. 43rd Infantry, sorry, 43rd, little typo there, 47th Independent Mixed Brigade, the Imperial Navy, and another sheet of the same charts and tables for a second player. We then go to the 6 counter sheets that we get with Saipan, and you'll notice some subtle differences in the graphical layout of these compared to the Grand Tactical series. Different color scheme and some subtle changes in the values represented, which I'll talk about in just a moment. Sheet 3, sheet 4, lots of foxholes, with slightly different rules for foxholes compared to entrenchments that you may be familiar with if you've played the Grand Tactical series. Disorganisation level. Again, sort of a slight tweak on the cohesion hit rules from the Grand Tactical series. And then we have the 2 maps for Saipan. We have the northern end of the island and the landing beaches, and the southern end of the island with some more landing beaches. So you can see just from the size of those 2 maps, it is more focused than many of the other Grand Tactical series maps. Certainly smaller and more manageable than Where Eagles Dare and the Devil's Cauldron and The Greatest Day. So that was the first title released in 2017. Ross Mortell and Adam Starkweather. Guam came next, and I don't have Guam yet. It is certainly on my shopping list as the next title that I want to get. Then we had Montelimar, which brought us back to Europe, France, 1944, and a historical action that took place in the south of France following the Allied invasion down south. 2 dice, the rules of play, a large scenario book. Now, Montelimar comes with 8 scenarios. Again, some subtle rules changes from Saipan. We have our familiar charts and tables, a nice sequence of play, summary with a summary of the action phase, date, time, and weather display, our divisional displays, 36th Division, Task Force Butler, 45th Division, 3rd Infantry Division, some German forces, 2nd Panzer Division, 189th Infantry Division, 338 and 198 Infantry Division, and a second set of charts and tables. We then get with Montelimar 6 counter sheets, sheet 2, sheet 3, sheet 4, sheet 5. Looks to be fewer foxholes in this one, and sheet 6. Now, Montelimar was designed by Adam Starkweather. As I mentioned, this is a much bigger setting. I'm not going to open it with these maps, but we're talking here about the south of France and a fight over, well, Allies trying to block the German retreat in the south. 5 maps, 6 counter sheets. You can get a sense of that terrain. Sort of southern France, fields, some mountainous terrain, more roads and railroads, certainly compared to what we saw in Saipan. Okay, so as I said, this is more, there'll be a lot more manoeuvre in this title compared to the Marianas Campaign titles. And then, following Montelimar, Adam and Ross released Tinian, Volume 3 in their Marianas Campaign series. This follows on from Guam, but this geographically links directly to the north, I think, of Saipan. Art, again, all three titles by Antonio Pinar. This one was published in 2019. Again, another big Compass Games catalogue. 2 dice. We have the an errata sheet for Tinian. 3 points. That's quite nice. A large rules of play booklet. Now, this includes, I believe, some slight modifications for the previous titles. Now, Adam suggested starting with this as an entry point to the company scale system. It is both, I'll show you in a moment, it's a smaller map, more manageable, and quite a polished rulebook. Again, terrain effects, weather display, divisional displays, and 1, 2, 3, 4 counter sheets. Counter sheet number 1. Counter sheet number 2. Counter sheet number 3. And counter sheet number 4. You'll notice that's quite distinctive colour and art style for the company scale system to contrast it quite starkly with the Grand Tactical series. And of course, Tinian comes with just the one large 22 by 34 inch map representing the island, with Saipan fitting just off to the northeast. So landing beaches, combination of fields. Tinian was something like 80-90% sugar crops, I think. I could be wrong, but there was some type of crop. I think it was sugar. Sugar cane crops. I could be mistaken there. Airfield down south here. Town hex here, which is treated as a city hex, I believe, by the looks of it. Some ridges, rough terrain, beach terrain, so forth. And some mixed terrain around Mount Lasso. So this is the one I'm going to be starting with. To learn the series, get to grips with the series rules. It's a nice one mapper. Start with a few small scenarios. Tinian has 3 focus scenarios and 3 campaign scenarios. So there's a lot in here to keep one going for some time. At this point, you may be wondering, what are some of the main differences? I will point out that there is a great document on Board Game Geek which summarizes most, if not all, of the major differences. I'm just going to summarize from that sheet. So some of the main differences between the company scale system and the Grand Tactical series are that there are now 2 night turns. The final chit in the cup, in most scenarios from the Grand Tactical series, you leave that chit in the cup. It's the first chit drawn on the next turn. In this, you play through all the chits in the cup. I like that. I always found that either forgetting to save it or forgetting about it. I like that, just playing through all the cups. In many cases, your second action can be the same as your first action, though there are some restrictions to that. That's an exception to, it's different to the Grand Tactical series where you can't play 2 of the same actions in a row. You can in some circumstances in the company scale system. There are restrictions on when you can change into or out of a column. So you can't change from column to deployed or vice versa on a direct command chit, although I believe that has changed. That was the original rule in Saipan. I think it may have changed from Guam onwards. On a direct command chip, units don't have to be in command to do a first action. And this is again different to the Grand Tactical series, where command was important for that direct command activation. All formations roll for new command points when the direct command is pulled. It's again slightly different. This is when you roll for that command. There are prepared assaults in the company scale system. If you assault on a first action, you can't do a second action for that unit. They're kind of concentrating entirely on their assault and they're done for the turn. Barrages stay on the map at the end of the turn. You, in many circumstances, not most, I think you have to be in column to move your units around on the map. So once they're out of column, they're deployed and stationary. I'm yet to see how this plays out in action, but this is going to be very interesting to try out. You can change from deploy to column at the start of the formation or divisional activation or direct command. White striped units, which the rules surrounding them changed a lot throughout GTS 1.1 and version 2 of the rules. They are no longer active on formation activation chips. There are some changes to opportunity fire. Opportunity fire does not require the firing unit to pass a true quality check. It happens. Engineering actions don't trigger opportunity fire. Indirect fire units can no longer opportunity fire, and units under concentrated fire markers cannot opportunity fire. That's particularly unique to the company scale system. When rallying, you can only perform one rally action per hex. So you can't rally with multiple units in the same hex, just one of those units in the hex. And rally actions can be conducted within an enemy fire zone. Finally, there are different rules for the introduction of support units and tanks. I won't go into all the details regarding those. They're basically a completely new set of rules guiding their use and the effect they have. Another key rule, wheeled and tracked units can no longer deploy in towns. You may recall from the Grand Tactical series, a wheeled or tracked unit could move into town, leave column and remain stationary, provided they don't try to move. You can no longer do that in the company scale system. There are special rules for elimination rounds, which I've sort of skimmed over, and concentrated fire, but these are entirely new rules for the company scale system. There are many other small rules and tweaks and the sort of the relationship between illuminated fire, concentrated fire, what units can do what, rules around support weapons and tanks, those slight changes to when you can move, go into column and so forth. I'm not going to go into all the details, otherwise I have to go through most of the rules and this would be a very long video. But for the most part, 80 to 90% of the rules from the Grand Tactical series remain the same in terms of collecting dispatch rating, your dispatch points, spending dispatch points, collecting and using command points for all these various purposes. The whole D10 based combat system of firing and assaulting, there are some little tweaks here and there, but for the most part, if you have played a title in the Grand Tactical series, you should be able to make a smooth transition to the company scale system. As I've said, I have read through several of the rulebooks to get a sense for the different tweaks. They are all very subtly different. I have not yet had the opportunity to play through any of them, but now they're unboxed, it'll be top of my list of things to do. If you have any questions, let me know. I'm about to tackle Tinian, punch these counters and get set up. Now I hope it gives you some insight into the company scale system. As I said, this is, I want to collect Guam as soon as I can. That'll be the first 4 titles in the series on my shelves. Following Tinian, we had The Little Land, the battle for Novorossiysk, published in 2019. Fulda Gap, the battle for the center, published in 2020. And of course, Adam has a forthcoming title. I think it's coming out later this year. The second title in that Fulda Gap series. Okay, thanks for watching everybody. I hope it's been informative.